friends, and welcome back to the show once again on Mirror Wisdom Reflected. You know how everybody is a stranger in front of the mirror. Most people can't recognize themselves the right way. 80 to 90% of people have low self-esteem, and the other 10 may have a very high self-esteem. But very few recognize themselves in the mirror, and that's why I call it strangers in the mirror. This channel, Mirror Wisdom Reflected, I invite upon guests like our present guest and other dignitaries who have achieved a lot, who have worked hard, who have their intellectual capabilities, geniuses in their own field, and whatever they have contributed to the country, the society, and the world. That's why this is Mirror Wisdom Reflected. I reflect the wisdom in my host. As a host, I reflect the wisdom in the guest whom I invite upon. Welcome back to the show. We have had some very interesting people from Vitamin D to Sonu Nigam, and it's been a fun time. Each one of them have enjoyed a lot, and thanks so much for your response and your welcome criticism and feedback that I've had over a period of time. Well, today it's a very interesting scenario. We have a person who was from selling Paan, traveling in a train from Calcutta to Mumbai, sitting next to the loo so that he can put water on the Paan, so that the Paan does not die over a period of time. He has to keep feeding water. And from there to selling toys to becoming and owning a own port. This young Kolkata-born gentleman journey resembles a fairy tale, all thanks to his mental toughness, grit, and of course his hard work. He kept up the promise he made to himself by building the first ever private port and a subsequent huge shipyard. What I hear is the first time he entered dockyard in Bombay, as a common small boy, he said, I'll make a dock of my own. And well, he kept a promise to himself. Today, his name has become synonymous with the Pipava port. Nobody could have imagined that the man who had abandoned studies because he had problems learning English. He was at one time a point beleaguered by the financial troubles that he had, and once faced a near-death situation in his ambitious plans. He did dare to dream big, and added to this dream was his mother's counsel. Her advice was that learning is an ongoing process and it is never too late to learn anything in life. So keep imbibing every day. He began his career at a very young age of 18 with a capital of less than rupees 45,000 in 1983. However, also became a pioneer in the infrastructure sector, and there was neither any policy nor any precedence for private sector participation in infrastructure sector. He has a huge contribution to the infrastructure in this country. And according to a Greek saying, owning a port is like owning the whole country. And when he saw Mumbai port, he decided that I would build a similar port and become the king of the sea. And he named his company and his business as Sea King. With the rising number of orders, his business grew a great. And when he tried approaching people from various corners, he got help and got rejected too. But he always regarded his mother, who always told him, as the ultimate guru, his source of inspiration. And with her death, he lost the greatest asset in his life. But he said, after the fight and after the body humiliation that he had, and he had grievous injuries, he says, I have worked like a banya from birth. And by birth, I was a banya. But now I would fight like a Rajput and complete the Pipava project. This is where this man, in terms of planning, designing, and modern engineering, Pipava shipyard is considered to be among the best in the world. The wheel has taken a full circle, and now success was chasing Nikhil Bhai. First private port, from there he put up a railway line, private highway, the concept of special economic zone, having got so many firsts to his credit. What does he intend to achieve further? And he says, if you take on challenges up front, crisis will not last long. Well, without wasting more time in the accolade this man has, let me get him in front of you. A wonderful, smiling gentleman who's achieved a lot, always fierce with power, and always had great faith in the Indian system and Indian people, that they are second to none. Let me introduce Nikhil Gandhi, a very esteemed guest who's here with us to share his experiences on what has been happening in his life. Nikhil Bhai, welcome to the show, and thanks for sparing your valuable time.
Thank you so much, Himanshu Bhai. And I'm a very shy person, but I don't know how you managed to get me on the show. And thank you so much for that. I am a humble man, and I've tried to contribute in a humble manner throughout my life, because I am a highly nationalist, and I think equally about the whole of us, all of Indians, because I believe that Indians are second to none. Go to any part of the world and you'll find Indians calling shots. So Indians per se has all the wherewithals and qualities in themselves. Only thing they should get an opportunity. And sometimes you will have to, if you don't get an opportunity, you have to continue to chase them till you succeed. So I think in my case, I had all to gain and nothing to lose when I was leaving Calcutta for good. And my mother asked me, he said, listen, you are going to Bombay, but you must understand your own SWOT analysis. You have no education. You can't speak a line in English. You don't have a capital. You don't have a godfather, and you want to succeed. That's fantastic, because your canvas is blank. So please try and draw it beautifully. That means do things correctly, and don't draw black. Means do not do anything illegal and wrong things. And that was the biggest, I think, wisdom that I could get from my mother. And see, as a young kid, we lived opposite Hooghly River in Calcutta, and I used to see the ship movement throughout the evening. And she asked me one day, so why are you watching the ship movement every day? Why don't you go and play some sports? I said, no, in the evening, this is what I enjoy the most. He said, tell me, what is the biggest ship? And I very gladly said Titanic. She said, no, the biggest ship is relationship. So in my mind, in my heart, another most valuable advice that I got from her was that you have to build relationship in an honest manner, which helps you to grow in life. So I came to Bombay without much of support and things like that. But of course, the parents' blessings and mother's wisdom was my biggest capital. And when I came to Bombay, I had a lot of hopes and excitement in my eyes, and I thought, of doing variety of stuff. Suddenly, I got a contract to sell brooms to Bombay Port and a cleaning cloth to the Indian Navy, a naval dockyard in Bombay. And I saw for the first time in my life a port and a dockyard. It was very overwhelming. And it was the wildest of wild dream to think about building a port and a dockyard and an office in front of the naval dockyard was truly a wild dream. But I dared to see the dream, because I think unless we see the dream, what can you chase? You have to have a dream. You should not get scared to see the dream, howsoever big and complicated they are. You have to see the dream. That gives you courage. And then with your courage of conviction, you can move forward. In my case, same thing happened, that we once we started with the brooms and cleaning cloth, people used to call me Jadu Potawala. And I was quite amused. And I thought that I need to graduate now. So we went get into the complex engineering subject, because we realized that we cannot succeed if we continue to remain in a Me Too kind of business. For example, you are building steel, I'm building steel too. If you are manufacturing aluminum, I'm manufacturing aluminum too. You are making clothes and I'm making clothes too. So Me Too kind of business will never help. And some of the big business houses were already well established in the established sector. And I had to think about something new. I was very fortunate that I was a little vocal. So in one of the seminar, I was speaking about how Indian ports make us suffer because of their inefficiency. And in one of the seminar, a top bureaucrat from New Delhi, spotted me and invited me to Delhi. And, to my pleasant surprise, he appointed me as the youngest board member on the board of Bombay Port Trust. I was 28, the next guy was 62. And I had no much clue about what I was supposed to do. But one thing I could see very clearly that, that India needs infrastructure India needed private capital, global technology, because in those days, India was, in a serious trouble. We had $890 million foreign exchange reserve, good enough to last maybe 4 weeks, 5 weeks. So we were virtually as a country in a grave. And I realized that the time has come that private sector should be permitted. In fact, the Bombay Port Trust, then the largest port in the country, used to take about 27 days to turn around a ship compared to 12 to 18 hours by Port of Singapore Authority and Port of Rotterdam. And I was asking myself that, what are we doing? While our foreign exchange is $890 million, the shipping damage was $1.2 billion. We just can't ill afford. When I told this to late Ramdas sir, he was a top bureaucrat and a genius himself. He said, Gandhi, it's very silly. What are you talking about? It's not going from a treasury. So I picked up a sugar sachet. I said, when you and I buy the sugar from the market and pay 5 rupees extra per kg, do we ever realize why it is so? Because the damn thing was lying at the port for 27 days, and the demurrage incurred thereof goes from your pocket and my pocket. So you don't realize it is not going from treasury, but it's going from your pocket and my pocket. He said, that's how it is. But there is no policy. As in 1947, there were none. Policies and precedents are created depending upon need and necessity. You are the people who created policies. So create one. Suppose if you create policy and give me a first approval to build the first private port, first private infrastructure project, if I succeed, you take all the credit. If I fail, I lose money, I lose credibility, I lose my efforts, and you abuse me on top of it. So all your gain, nothing. I'm the only one who will lose everything. He was taken aback. He said, let me try. And he could get through the government permission. And that's how, in February 1990, India's first private sector port got approved. And a year and a half later, when the economic reforms were introduced by Government of India, our vision was vindicated and his decision was vindicated. So that is how the economic reform started. And I was very pleased that ever since, India never looked back. From 890 million to almost 600 billion today, we have come a long way. It's all because of a very solid work being done currently, and by the decision makers, by the policy makers. And Indians are allowed to do things which they were aiming to do, they were dreaming to do for a very long time. I think this is the time. In fact, I feel a little sad that I should have been born 20, 30 years later. And because the next 20, 30 years is going to be most exciting ever in our lifespan and in our country. Because India has achieved a lot. And as our Honorable Prime Minister said, that 2047 is where India will become a developed country. And that means the next 25 years are going to be super exciting. Because even now, 30 years post-reforms, we have achieved about maybe say 15, 20%, 80% more to be achieved. And as the government policy says that inclusive development and Atmanirbhar means independent, self-dependent. So that is what we all have to look forward to. The opportunities galore. A lot of people go away overseas thinking that opportunity is more over there. I tell people to come back. I said, this time will never come. And the challenges are bound to be there, but the resolution will also be there. So one day, the gentleman the top bureaucrat in Delhi asked me, he said, you brought the problems, which is very big. Have you got a prescription as well? I said, that every problem comes with prescription. It's all up to us to find out. If you have a positive mindset, nothing is impossible. And I remember that railway project, which is a heart of Saurashtra now. It connects the Saurashtra to the entire country. It was on a drawing board of the government for nearly 50 years. But the moment approval came through, it was developed within 18, 19 months. and it was inaugurated by our Honorable Prime Minister, the then Chief Minister of Gujarat. And people thought that when you develop a project like this, you'll go bankrupt. A project which was developed for 290 crores in 17 years, the value of the project is nearly 6,000 crores. So it is a myth that infrastructure is not paying. Infrastructure sector is a long-term game, and you have to have a patience. So we need a patience capital. We need to have a very strong courage of conviction, and we have to ensure that what we do is a truly world-class. Sasta, sundar, tikau and chalta hai philosophy will not work. India is now not going to tolerate anything less than the best. Look at the time when I started, we had two opportunities, either Fiat or Ambassador, Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, Mark 4. Today, there are hundreds of cars. So we have an opportunity. When you develop the test of a good things in life and good things which you can afford, why would you go to third-rated and fourth-rated things? So a lot of people believe that whether this will work or not. There are a lot of naysayers, a lot of question marks all the time. There'll be people who will try to pull you down and discourage you and things like that. The more and more discourage gives me more and more encouragement. So I look for people who discourage me. In fact, people have been telling me that the land will never be available for the building the railway. You won't believe. The area in Saurashtra region, the people in the Saurashtra region, they were so supportive. And one of our contractors, Sumitomo Corporation from Japan, they were shocked to see how in a 2 sit-down dinner, they agreed to support us and built a 300-kilometer long railway project, and that also in partnership with the government of India. And nothing seemed impossible because we always thought that we have to provide the best in-class infrastructure to our people who deserve it the best. Because it's a myth that the project which you develop with the support of the top-class companies across the globe will be very expensive. No, it's not. It's a myth because those people are so responsible. They help you to achieve the projects on a time-bound basis. You have to understand that vision has to be very clear. I always tell people, there is an injection for vitamin A, B, C, and D, but there is no vision injection. If you have, you have. You don't have, you don't have. Finished. So we have to clear. We have and God has brought all of us down with the same brain, same capability. We have to use it. We have to use it effectively, and each one of us can succeed. I went and lectured until 25. I couldn't speak a line in English, and someone.
So that's what I was going to ask you. That education. You left education because English was difficult. And how much did it made you fall behind in life? Because everybody think that an HBS degree or a degree from somewhere else, Stanford, Harvard, you didn't have any degrees, but you are where you have reached. And you can have all these Harvard graduates with you. So not learning English and being invited by Wharton for a talk. Let's understand, how did you develop? Because you always kept learning.
I spoke to many guys. The Wharton's 125th anniversary, they invited me. The IIM Ahmedabad and London Business School, London School of Economics. The issue is that I tell the youngsters, the education is so important. But God forbid, if you don't have access to one, you can still succeed. Because we have an inherent strength in ourselves. We just have to look at that. And we have to have belief in our own self. Why can't we do what others can do? Why do we always think that a guy in USA or a guy in Germany or a guy in Japan, they are superior? I'm not saying they are not, but we are no less. So that we have to, because in an Indian environment where there were challenges at times, people succeeded. That means that we have a strong fundamental and a strong leadership who are willing to support those who are willing to take risk. You have to have a belief in our policies, in our system, and in our opportunity. So I don't think so. There is any, insofar I am concerned, I've never taken no as an answer wherever I felt that fundamentally I'm strong, because you have to justify. If you are so strong-headed, you have to justify what you are talking about. So
So the
that's how it is.
question now, yeah,
So I believe that it's a myth that a world-class project or world-class product is expensive and cannot have a demand. We have a lot of pent-up demand. There was a time Mumbai to Ahmedabad, there were 2 flights, they were going full. Now there are 12 flights, still going full. What does it indicate? We have a pent-up demand. If you create infrastructure, people will use it. You cannot create, industry before infrastructure, because industry will never come, because they would want infrastructure. So infrastructure has to be put in place. And unfortunately, sometimes we get delayed and bogged down because there are naysayers enough in numbers in our country who will always doubt whether this will work, whether this is required, whether he can do it. In my initial years, more or less everyone rejected me, saying that, who do you think you are? Are you Tata? Are you Birla? Or are you Ambani? Who are you? I am nobody. So look, I said I'm Gandhi from Gujarat. So that was enough answer for me to give them. And finally, we found the support because people believed that this guy is talking sense. So that's what it is. Sorry, you were saying something.
yes, no, I was asking you a simple question, sir, that today the brick and mortar model, there's a fight in technology with the brick and mortar model, and you are a strong believer of the brick and mortar model. The technology disruption which has come up today and how things are changing. How do you think the two of them are going to bridge the gap in between? You are a strong believer in brick and mortar model. So, and what is the opportunity that the younger generation has in the next 25 years, which is really left to be explored with so much of competition?
See, let me tell you, go back 20 years behind. India had about $20 billion foreign exchange reserve when Prime Minister Vajpayee was at the helm of affairs. And that time, that government conceived a very outstanding concept of connecting the roads. They are to build the highways and expressways and things like that. A lot of people had a lot of doubts that, they are spending a lot of money on expressways and highways is not going to golden. It's called golden quadrilateral concept. And the moment it started, 250 sector got energized. In fact, that laid a very, very strong foundation, because even with the $20 billion foreign exchange reserve, we were on the brink. It was not adequate. So the brick and mortar sector is the biggest contributor to the India's economic growth, well synergized with the technology. Technology is very valuable and very critical, but technology alone cannot do magic. So if technology and brick and mortar working together can do magic. Coming back to that golden quadrilateral, so from $20 billion, we have reached now to $600 billion. One of the biggest contributor is undoubtedly brick and mortar. See what happens that if you have a building which is very nice and very well made, very beautiful building, it might fetch you 100 rupees. My building is slightly dilapidated, it may fetch me 80 rupees. But if you have if I have a 2G and you have 5G, I'll be finished in no time. So the question is that there is a huge disruption in the technology sector, which is not in the brick and mortar sector. So that's why I say technology is extremely valuable. We are all heavily benefited because of the technology, but coupled with the brick and mortar, it can do a much bigger magic than anyone can imagine.
Because as a citizen from Mumbai, I can only say one thing, looking at the infrastructure. I've been always shown a carrot that in the next few years, my life will become better. And all my colleagues here in Bombay will agree that it has progressively just got worse, not better. That's the whole problem with infrastructure. It's way beyond time. We are way behind in time. And how can we expedite this?
I have a few things to say. I am also a very strong critic, of the system. But I must say the last few years, there has been a magical change. And I'm forced to change my opinion, and then I'll explain to you why. So first of all, no island city can be fully developed unless it is connected to the whole state. So that Bombay was supposed to connect up properly with the entire Maharashtra. And a project which was a brainchild of a visionary, late Sir J.R.D. Tata, in 1973, called Mumbai Trans-Harbour Link. So that project was considered in 1973. It didn't see light of the day until 2000. My company brought in the finest in Britain, a finest infrastructure developer in Britain called Lengoru. We brought them in and to build the bridge, but somehow it didn't see light of the day. So we also lost the interest and we quit. Finally, when Mr. Devendra Fadnavis, he became the chief minister of Maharashtra, he's a visionary and he was very clear about building extraordinary infrastructure, not only in Mumbai, but throughout the Maharashtra. So he is the one who led this initiative from the front and got the billions of dollars from Japan and got the highest rated contractors and got the bridge started. And I'm so delighted. Every day, one of my most favorite thing to get the news is about the Mumbai Trans-Harbour Link, because it is now nearly 90% ready. It is being built by, it is owned by MMRDA, but it is being built by top class corporations like IHI Japan, Larsen Toubro, Tata, and Daewoo of Korea. The bridge is 90% ready. It will do a massive magic to all Mumbai, New Mumbai, and Pune population. Number one. Number two, the coastal road, which was again started in around 16, 17 or so, which is now going on a very fast track. And every day we can see from our respective homes that how much is the progress that is being achieved. So there are a couple of projects like that. And the latest one I hear is that Virar Warsaw and Virar Alibag multimodal corridor. And those two projects, with these two projects, I can tell you, Doctor, we will all change our opinion completely. And I'm very delighted. I would not mind, I would not waste even a second to criticize if something is not happening. But fortunately, for last 5-6 years, there was a lull in between for a variety of reasons, but it is now on a fast track, and I'm because we are indirectly involved in some of those developments, so I'm aware of that. And mind you, unlike a lot of other infrastructure projects which are stalled or delayed because they have chosen X kind of contractors, but in this case, they have selected the top class contractors. Look at the Samruddhi corridor. It will give impetus to the entire Marathwada and Vidarbha region. They need employment, they need inclusive development. They don't get the water, they don't have rainfall. So you have to generate an opportunity for them to earn their livelihood. As this government says, Prime Minister Modi sir says that unless inclusive development is done, India cannot become a developed country. It's a pipe dream. So I think this is one big step towards an inclusive development. It is in Maharashtra where I'm staying and you are staying. We can see that. Hopefully in next couple of weeks, as I hear, and I hope I'm right, the first phase of Samruddhi corridor will be inaugurated. It is under development by another marquee corporation called MSRDC. And so I think we all deserve top class infrastructure. I fully in sync with you. We will need more and more, which is also I'm in agreement with you. But these five infrastructure which I talked about will change the life of our 25 million Mumbai, Navi Mumbai region people. So that's my firm belief. And if it were not the case, I would have criticized right here.
True, very true, very true. So, sir, you had some great relationship because I met the Japanese ambassador, and they have very high regard in the embassy for you. And what are your opinions with Japan and the way they work, their work models, ethics? Give us a little more insight from your interaction with the Japanese people.
I think very, very highly of both Japan and Singapore. and particularly Japan, because there was a time, Doctor, you must be aware, until year 2001, 2002, India used to get about $7-8 billion through bilateral aid to build our country. And every year there used to be meeting called G7 meeting at Paris. And 7 countries would give India cumulatively about $6-7 billion or so. It was named as Aid India Consortium. That means we are getting aid because we were a poor country. In 2002 or so, Japan took a notice of that. Japan, who has been one of our greatest bilateral partner, geopolitical partner, and they've contributed a lot to our economic development. They said that don't call it aid anymore. India is developing. So call it a India Development Fund. For every Indian, it's a matter of great pride when Japanese says so. The Japanese government raised the reputation and prestige of all of us. I was very, very happy and proud to hear that. So, and then not only that, Japan recommended and shifted the G7 meeting that year onwards to Tokyo. So it used to be called, and of course, in last couple of years, I have no idea, but it was called India Development Forum. Of course, India stopped taking bilateral aid now, because India itself is giving to many countries. So instead of taking bilateral aid, India is giving bilateral aid to many, many countries who need it. So we have come up the edge, and in terms of Japan, they have got the phenomenal connect with India because of their temple in Nalanda and Gaya region. They have got a Buddha temple, and there are a lot of connect with the Japanese philosophy. Most importantly, when late Abe-san, former Prime Minister of Japan, he and our Prime Minister Modi sir built a very strong personal rapport. That catapulted India into a different league altogether with the Japanese aid. They have, as you are well aware, that they are funding the bullet train, which will be a boon for at least the Gujarat and Maharashtra to begin with, and other states subsequently. And they are funding all our major expansion and developments. And these guys give us 30 to 40 years of credit. I mean, this is not small, just for a 1% interest per annum. And I'm also proud to say that we are the only joint venture company in India who could secure the Japanese long-term funding. And of course, we prepaid them. But Japanese are the people who are not only very ethical, very emotional towards India, very supportive, and not for now, for many, many decades. But last 7-8 years, it has been in a different level altogether. And I think India and Japan are not only economic partner, but we are a very strong geopolitical partner. So I think very highly of Japan, and similarly, I think very highly of Singapore. Both Singaporeans and Japanese, they have a tremendous faith in India and India's economic growth, India's future growth potential, and India's current leadership. That's an extraordinary. So I'm very proud. That's why I said that I think I have born maybe 20-25 years earlier. I should have been born 25 years later, but nevertheless, when it comes to work, I'm no less than 25, and so no more than 25 actually.
So on the same note, I'm going to ask you, for a 25-year-old who has not seen the world, what the future is bright, but he doesn't know which direction to head. That's something which we are going to have a separate lecture from you, that these are the areas to concentrate on for the country, for themselves, and for the future that is looking so bright for this country. Nobody can question that. Every small detail that you come in the newspaper, everybody, one way or the other, from the stock markets, from the economic perspective, all the economists finally have said that this is the country which is emerging. The markets have proved it. All markets have gone down. All the currencies have depreciated. India has depreciated the least. Yes, agreed. But which are the directions to head, which would be taking a shorter time without having a great learning experience? Well, we'll have a good talk from you on that. But let me ask you this question. You had a very cheap loan from Japan, which you could have utilized it for other purposes and made more money on that. But you chose to give it back in time. You had an interest at what? Would you specify a little more on that?
Yes, that was a bilateral credit, and we have a joint venture between us and the government of Gujarat PSU, and which was very, very helpful for us. And the moment we got the funding from we had the very large equity investment from Singapore government companies, and we prepaid that loan because our purpose was served, and we wanted to move on. And my late mother used to say that the interest horse runs faster than the Arabi horse. So in Gujarati or Hindi, when you say कि ब्याज का घोड़ा अरबी घोड़ा से fast भागता है. So to try to keep the interest burden as low as possible. So whenever possible, or most of the time, we try to, whichever project we developed, we try to keep the debt burden as low as possible and interest burden as low as possible, because that increases the value for the stakeholders. And we have been very lucky that we have had the investment from some of the top corporations in the world, including sovereign funds and pension funds, insurance funds, private equity, hedge funds, because we never cut corners. We work with the best-in-class corporations in the world and creating value which people wouldn't imagine. So every project of ours created value for our stakeholders. And challenges, as I said, keep coming without any advance notice. And we always are prepared to deal with the challenges in equal proportion. But having said, I think that our faith and belief in our country is enormous, because, and for the youngsters particularly, this is their golden quarter century. They must not look back, because unless they have a strong courage of conviction, if I had done 30 years ago what I did, they can do much more than what I did 30 years ago, because now the platform is set. Most of the archaic laws have been done with in last several years. So they have a far more better platform than people like you and me had. If we were not scared, why should they be scared? They should pick up the thread where we will live and move on at a 200-mile-per-hour speed. The old fortune favors the brave. I'm not saying you go blindly. Do your homework well, but have a very strong courage of conviction and then jump. A lot of people tell me that you jump and then find a way, while others try to find a way and jump. They will never find a way, so they will never jump. So you better jump, and you will definitely find a way. So that is what I believe is required to be done by one and all, whether it is youngster or senior people or whoever it is. I'm sure there are far more wiser people than me in this country, but I'm just trying to share my own experience.
So it's like a surgical strike. First shoot, then ask questions. First jump into the well and you learn swimming anyway. I'm a surgeon and I totally second that opinion. Unless you take the risk, you keep thinking of the pros and cons and the vices of the whole game, you'll never be able to play the game. You got to
every time I started a new project, people first write my obituary. And it gives me a kick, actually. It gives me so much of encouragement. Unless I have a worse critic as my neighbor, I won't be able to do better.
Which is the book which has impressed you the most? Do you read a lot? What is it that would you like to say? Which is a Bible in life that one should read?
I must have got about 300 books throughout my life, because people must be thinking that I'm an avid reader. Where am I getting all the knowledge from? But I've read only 4 books, and all 4 books written by same author, founding father of Singapore, late Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, who was my guru in absentia. So I read his top class books, and I give those books to many youngsters, because I want them to learn and do better than what I've done in my life. So book number 1 is Singapore Story. Second book is Third World to First World, Hard Truths, and one more. So 4 books is like, for me, it's like a Ramayana or Bible or whatever you want to say. Because these are the books which is like very thick book. People sometimes get scared to see the size of the book, but it contains everything what you need to succeed in your life. So my guru in absentia has been late Lee Kuan Yew. I'm grateful that what he did in Singapore and what he wrote in those books has been of great help to me. So whenever I have a confusion, I glance through those pages again and again and again and again. And believe me, and I'm not joking, every time I glance through the pages, I find something new which I missed earlier. It's an outstanding book for anyone to read, particularly for the youngsters who want to build their career.
It's like
and I think that is a boon for me, and I'm glad that I found that book. Somebody presented it to me, by the way. So I keep presenting it to one and all. Whoever I feel happy with or impressed with, I give a book.
Say, perfectly said, well said. One of the things said is that you are identified by the company you keep. Who are the people you surround with? I'm sure you must be surrounded with very smart people. So that's something which I would want to know the secret, because what you spend 80% of your time is what you are going to be. So that's something that would be very interesting. Who are your advisors? Whom do you look forward to?
See, I've been very lucky and very blessed person. I found people at various point of time in life who have guided me, supported me, mentored me, criticized me, helped me in any and every circumstances. So there are many like that, and I continue to be blessed that way, because there are many seniors who still criticize me and teach me and guide me. So I think that, as my late mother said, you should continue to remain pupil till you go to your grave, because don't become teacher ever. Because the moment you become teacher, you stop learning, because nobody teaches teacher. So I'm a pupil, doctor, but I try to keep the company of the people who are clean at heart, first of all, and people who dare to dream. I don't like people who are scared of something or other, some other circumstances, some other events. No, life has to move on, and you have to continue to have a very strong courage. So I love the people who are dreamers. I love the people who are clean-hearted, because I don't have a time to look back to see who is stabbing me on the back. I don't have time. I trust people on a face value. I suffered a lot because of that also, but I've gained a lot, and I have no regrets. I'll continue to be that way. I'll continue to keep the company of the people who are clean-hearted and dreamers, the people who are visionaries. They talk about next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. That's how it is. We should lay the foundation of the creation, which will last generations. We have to create legacy projects. And that's what I believe in.
So that mega project said, the next thing that I heard in your mind was, and you are very, very excited about, is a very smart city concept. Can you expand a little bit on that smart city concept that you are very impressed with, and you really want to spend your time doing that?
First of all, the smart city concept was an extraordinary, policy framework and a vision of our Honorable Prime Minister Modi sir. And when I looked at that, I thought this is the mother of all the projects and mother of all the concepts and the policy framework. It's an extraordinary. Smart city and Make in India is merged into one, because it has both the vision. The smart city is something which is very close to my heart. I've seen few of the smart cities around the world, particularly one in Korea called Songdo, and one in China, which was built by Singapore government, called Suchao. Extraordinary development. The smart city ought to be a greenfield. Existing smart city you can make smart by making some changes and things like that, but the challenges are far too many, because in an existing city, even if you want to make smart, your challenges are too many, because you can't replace the water supply line, because you can't stop water supply to the millions of your citizens. Similarly, you can't change the sewer system overnight or rebuild the roads and things like that, because you don't get a additional land in the city to expand your road and strengthen your road and things like that. Because, for example, Bombay never sleeps. It's 24/7. So when do you do the work? Like, for example, you and I have both witnessed whenever there is a metro project is coming up, which will be a boon to the millions, or the other mega project is coming up in the city, we have a temporary challenges and quite severe challenges. Of course, eventually everybody will be hugely benefited, but currently the challenges are there. And if you want to make a smart city in an existing city, it will be a bigger challenge, very, very big challenge. So the best part is the smart cities are ought to be developed near tier 1 and tier 2 cities. When you invest $1 in smart city, doctor, your user's investment will be 15. So it's a huge multiplier effect. There is no other sector which can bring a multiplier effect like smart city. So that's why when the smart city concept was brought into the country by our Prime Minister, I was super excited, and I was just watching that who is developing smart city and whether one can exchange the thought process and share some of those things which I've seen around the world and all. But this is something which can add, if not more, at least 2% to our GDP. Because you see, hundreds of sectors will get energized. And smart city is all about, again, the finest brick and mortar initiatives and coupled with technology. And I must say that Singaporeans are the best, because they have done smart city in almost 30 countries. And the majority of Chinese development, which we all go gaga over and feel very proud about, is all done by Singaporeans and not native Chinese.
Oh,
so very interesting. And the Songdo, I saw about 15 years ago when I went to Songdo. It was a very scary site, which is about 45 minutes from Incheon Airport in Seoul. 15 years later, when I went there, they had 300,000 people, $60 billion physical investment have come in, and it was too good to be true. It was too good to be true. So I think that's the power of a smart city. And our smart city, wherever the greenfield city is being developed, either by the government or the private sector and so on, the multiplier effect would be humongous. I think this is the single biggest policy framework, according to me, by the government of India, which will add to the GDP and meet with the expectation of and aspirations and the vision of the Prime Minister to have an inclusive development and become self-dependent, Atmanirbhar. This is the policy, and I'm very, very excited about it.
Have we started some work anywhere close to the city? Anywhere that you can?
There are a lot of places in the country is happening, and but everybody will have their own viewpoint and vision and things like that. But I'm saying at a policy level and the vision level, it is very, very sound. And I'm very excited about this concept than anything else in my life.
So are you a businessman, technocrat, professional? Which way would you describe yourself and your journey in life? And what are the things you learned from your mistakes? A couple of things that you feel that I wish I had done it this way. Having taken dynamic steps, you've taken some very nice, bold steps, but I'm sure a few mistakes, something which could be learned from your mistakes.
I make mistakes very regularly. And every day before going to bed, I look at the mirror and ask myself whether I could have avoided this or whether I should have done that better. So we are the best person to talk to ourselves, because you can't lie to yourself. You can bluff to anybody. You can't bluff to yourself. So you have to look at the mirror and talk honestly, and make sure that you try and avoid those mistakes again, which is very important. Making a mistake is your prerogative, but repeating them is a crime. So you must not repeat the mistakes what you created. That's number one. Number two, what you ask me is that I'm a very common, humble man. I'm nothing. I'm neither a technocrat nor a bureaucrat, or nor a financial wizard. But I have a clarity in my mind. Whatever I have done, I have done it well. I don't. If I look back, I have no regrets. So that's because because I had no background. My guru, who taught me English at the age of 25, was grandson of C. Rajgopalachari sir, was one of the greatest freedom fighters, and he was a naval officer. And he's the one who said, "Why are you shy? Must learn. And your mother taught you already, so you have nothing to worry about." So every day morning 6:30 to 8, he would teach me English and a bit of a marine engineering, and made me addicted to idli and filter coffee. So he's no more, unfortunately, but I cannot get over him. His kindness, his large-heartedness, he adopted me like a son and taught me a lot. I cannot forget that ever till my last breath. In that sense, I cannot forget many others who has taught me so much. Whatever knowledge I have got, little bit knowledge I have gathered in my life and my career, it is all thanks to those great personalities, beginning from my late mother to several gurus. And so I'm blessed, if I may say so.
Yeah, so you keep taking risk, but you will suddenly meet messiahs on the way who will help you to lead the way, even in a dark room. That's what you're saying, and it's so very true for all risk takers. They never knew who will come out of the blue and help them. They just went blindly, but there was somewhere someone waiting who didn't even know what they were doing, but they were taking you to the right path. I guess what you're saying is those points never understood at that point in time, but all those dotted line, as Steve Jobs said, they get together somewhere else in line. And I guess that's a wonderful journey. If you had to relive your life and put back those 25 years of your life, you started at the biggest advantage you had in life was you didn't spend time educating yourself. We studied till 30 years of our life. And there are times when I feel that the best period of my life between 18 and 32 was spent only on reading. I guess somebody could start their life at 18, and you're one of them who started their life so early in life, and you were a self-made man. You learned over a period. You don't need education, formal education. And I'm very convinced with a lot of people whom I meet that no formal education is necessarily required. It's just a tools by which you could survive if you're an average human being. But if you're good, education just is there. It comes with it. It's its own. Here, any advice for the younger generation that you would like to give? That what are the ways to look at education? Miming people. I'm sure you learned from a lot of gurus as you met on the pathway.
I'll tell you two small instances, particularly for the very, very young boys and girls. When I was 11 years of age, and I'm a very avid cricket fan, and I want to be a member of the cricket club in my building where I was staying in Calcutta. And my father was not very happy learning about it. He said, no, if you play cricket and become a member of the club, you will play cricket and not study. And he was quite a strict person, rightly so. And so when I insisted, so to discourage me, he said, finally, he said, when you earn, you become the member of the cricket club. So I said, very, very good, well said, no problem. At least I have a clearance from you. If I earn, I'll become the member of the cricket club. I saw a advertisement, and that Nirma company wanted to, select the youngsters who are 18 plus, who can take 10 kg worth of material, make the washing shop at home, and sell door to door, pay them back, and take another 10 kg material. I was 11, and I, went, and I had an audacity to went and convince a manager in a shop in Calcutta, and convince him to give me 5 kg material to make the washing shop. And I started making shop at home, and my hand used to burn because it was soda ash to deal with the hand, and then put it in a plastic bag, seal it up, and sell home to home. So while making uh, the washing powder, I added some, you know, some what do you call a small chemical which would give a good flavor to the washing powder. Small thing, but that started selling well, and I used to make 50 paisa per kg. And very soon I put together 25 rupees, which was what I needed to become the member. And then I realized that those cricket club fellows, they declined to admit me as a member when I said, look, I've started working and I'll give you money in a few months. So I thought that why should I now become the member of the cricket club? I should create a cricket club of my own. It's about leadership quality at 11. So I created my own cricket team and I became the captain of the team, and we became a very successful cricket club. What is that I want to tell the youngsters, that even at 11, one had the leadership quality, which everybody has it. They have to identify within themselves. So at 11, I created a cricket club. I earned my money. I became the captain, and I demonstrated that vision, wisdom, and dynamism is nobody's monopoly. You can find it in an 11-year-old or 80-year-old veteran. And then, subsequently, when I was 15, I started selling Paan. And people used to call my mother, Mrs. Gandhi, your son is selling Paan. Why can't he do work with his father? So my mother asked me, I said, are you ashamed of it? I'm doing very honorably. My hand used to cut because I used to carry the Paan, boxes in a coil rope, close with a coil rope. But I never felt, and my mom said that, no, I'm not, I'm very proud, as long as we are doing nothing wrong. So the youngsters today don't have to wait to become 18 or 25 or 30 or 40. They can start thinking about it. I'm not saying that you make the washing powder or sell Paan, but you can think about doing something creative work, even as a young kid. So there is no age group fixed that at 20 only you can do it, or 25 you can do it, or 45 you can do it, or 60 you can do it. Whether you're 11, you're 80, you can still do it. So that's what I wanted to say to the youngster, because rest of the story I've said, it is there. I can keep talking about those things for hours and hours together, but the most important thing is vision, wisdom, and dynamism is nobody's monopoly. You can find it in an 11-year-old or 80-year-old veteran. And two, there is no age to start in creative work. So that's what I want. And today's generation is very smart. They can always start early, much earlier than you and I started.
Thank you. I think some brilliant words of wisdom that he has put across from childhood, the leadership capability, the risk-taking capability, end results, the vision of the future, great belief in the country and its people. And the last part, the party which is given, I think is the best mantra that I've heard over a period of time. Vision, wisdom, and dynamism is nobody's monopoly. I think brilliant. It is there with you. Nobody can take it away from you, and nobody can steal it from you. So the mark of our ignorance is the depth of our belief in peace and injustice. What the caterpillar calls the end of the world, the master calls it a butterfly. I guess that's what Nikhil Bhai has said right now, friends. Some beautiful words of wisdom. All good things have to come to an end, but a dynamic journey of a young man selling Paan to where he has reached today, from Pipava port to whatever you. I can imagine the first public-private partnership deal ever to be coming up in a country. How many obstacles you would face from various angles when a country was still not self-respected. We did not have any other infrastructure. Having this dream of a huge infrastructure, the biggest problem the country is facing today is infrastructure. And to dream about it earlier on, to dream about a smart city, these are dreams which can get this country to a different level, become a developed country, and a 10 trillion economy within no time. There are a lot of young people who can get a lot of great messages from what he has said today. Thank you, Nikhil Bhai, for sparing some beautiful time and some valuable information for people.
Thank you so much. I'm honored. Doctor, you are a wonderful human being and also an extraordinary visionary yourself. And I'm glad and honored to be with you today. I'm an extremely shy person. I do not talk to anybody ever, but with you, I could not say no. So thank you so much for that.
No, but thank you. Really appreciate your time and spontaneity, friends. Without an iota of doubt, he's traveling. He reached Delhi early. He is right now in a hotel room, busy, but he managed to get some time out. And thanks very much for watching, everybody. And we'll come back with some very interesting show. Ramayana is happening, and some very, very hard work put in by Puniti Sar and our dear friend Vidhu Vinod Chopra. What's happening, where are we going, and how much more important for the younger generation to see and learn from our epics in a small, different way. We'll come back to that in our next show.